It's a subject near and dear to my heart. The Air Force Chief of Staff did not say no when talking about the idea of buying F-16 Block 80 Vipers, which
3, 2, 1, flight toss.
So Yahoo News is reporting the Air Force Chief responds to possibility of buying new Block 80 F-16s. Thomas Newdick says that General Alvin today responded to questioning regarding the potential of a new version of the prolific F-16, a so-called Block 80. They don't have a plan currently to buy the new Viper, but with the F-47 and the collaborative combat aircraft and F-35 and EX, it's on the table. Alongside Secretary of the Air Force, Frank Kendall, Chief of Space Operations, General Chance Saltzman, General Alvin was testifying before the Senate Committee on Armed Services. Senator Tom Cotton asked, focusing on just the next decade, then our current acquisition options are pretty limited. Would you be able to use newly built U.S. configured Block 80 F-16s to strengthen our strike fighter fleet if Congress can find additional funds for such an effort? And he said, looking at what that would be to take the export variant, adapt it to the Block 80, and the time it would take and where that would fall in production, I'd have to get back with you more details. So not really a no, but not really a yes. I'd really have to look at what the defense industrial base can do on that, because my sense is the current Block 70 is really eating up a lot of production lines and production capacity. So it's unclear whether there's even a Block 80. Lockheed Martin didn't say yes or no. And then there's more stuff on that. So that's the big takeaway. They didn't say no, so you're telling me there's a chance. So there's two things here. One, they brought up the production line, right? You only have so many ways you can produce a jet. They moved the F-16 production from Fort Worth, where it used to be, to make room for the F-35. They moved it to South Carolina, and they're only producing now the Block 70, 72 variants for export, because the U.S., the last F-16 block, because blocks are, think of them as, you know, your models, right? I flew the Block 30, Block 25. I've flown the Block 42. Block 40 and 50 are very similar, digital flight control, stuff like that. Block 50 and 52, last ones we bought. Now, we've upgraded them over the years, so they're not, you know, the ones that came out in 86, the Block 30s, aren't the same avionics and everything as what you'd see now. But, and they're not even the same as how I flew them, you know, back in 2009 to 2012. However, the Block 70 is the only thing, and that's other countries have been buying it. We've been talking about on this show and on the Mover and Gonky show how they've announced certain purchases, including like the Philippines and stuff like that. I don't know that a Block 80 exists, but I wouldn't doubt it, because all it is taking some of the technology from the F-35, and we've talked about them using the NGAD development and putting that technology in the F-35. So there's probably some tech that they can trickle down to the F-16. You know, you've already got conformal fuel tanks on the Block 70. You've already got an ESA radar. You can probably upgrade that. You can probably update all the guts, just like they did with the EX, right? The EX is not your father's Strike Eagle or the F-15 SA or anything like that. It is a relatively new aircraft, just like the Super Hornet compared to previous models. So could it be done? Yes. But he makes a good point. Do they have the capacity to do it? And with our abysmal ability to acquire aircraft, can you do it quickly enough to make it relevant? And can you do it cost effectively enough, right? Because if the F-16 Block 80 costs the same as an F-35, just buy an F-35. The idea being, and I've said this from the beginning, I think you need to have Gen 4.5, 5, 5.56. You need them all, because you need, day one of the war, the best tech to get in highly contested environments. And then on, you know, day 69 of the war, that's when you need your F-16s. Your F-16 goes to the reserves and guard. You need it for the Homeland Defense mission. You need it for some of these security packages that we do, the theater security packages. You need it for being able to do low intensity conflicts that we'd like to do a lot when, like, you bomb, you know, certain countries, terrorist groups, stuff like that. You need a bigger force where pilots are flying a lot. You don't just need a few specialized 5th gen or 6th gen fighters, because then the pilots don't fly very much and you really don't have the strength in numbers. So you have to augment that somehow. So I love the idea, especially since it's the world's greatest fighter and it's the best looking fighter. However, I don't know if it's that realistic, because the production line is set up for foreign material exports. And can we do it? Because the only way it makes sense is if you could do it quickly and cost effectively. Otherwise, you might as well buy the F-35. So, it's about numbers and it's about production. The F-15EX is different because they already had that production line, and the EX part is now being dedicated to that. And that's not the same as what Lockheed's doing, because Lockheed's got the F-35 and now they're doing the F-35, plus or whatever. And if we end up doing the F-55, who knows? So great idea. Not sure how realistic it is, but again, we've talked about in the past the layout of how we modernize our forces and continue having the ability to establish air dominance with what we have and what we want. And it's expensive. It's not cheap to have the Air Force that can do that. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to pull that off. I hate to be pessimistic, but I think it's just a headline that made me happy, but probably won't happen. We'll see. I hope so. Let me know in the comments what you think. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time.